Hello, I'm attorney Manny, sir, a partner at the Rossen law firm. Today we're going to be speaking with Harmon. Sean is a resident of China. He's been living in China for almost a decade since he graduated from the University of Florida. He lives in Shanghai. He's the general manager of Duvel Moortgat. I think I got that right. If not, he'll correct me, I'm sure. He oversees 80 employees over there. He's been rising in the company and as a young professional who has lived in China even in the summers when he was in undergrad. Another fun fact about Sean was my roommate at the University of Florida. So we'll be discussing with Sean how COVID-19 or the Wuhan virus, that epidemic or pandemic affected Sean's life, people's lives in China, and essentially what China's like now. To be quite frank, we don't really know. We're on the other side of the world. So Sean hopefully can cast a little bit of light on that for us and everyone who's watching this. So with that being said, Sean, how you doing?
Doing great, Manny. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, man. Long time no see. Since the wedding you flew over. Is that it? Last time?
Yeah, I think it's been since the wedding, man. Too long.
So obviously, thanks for joining us. I guess we'll start off by, when did you first hear of COVID-19 or the Wuhan virus? What was your first understandings of this?
The first thing we heard was basically a rumor. It was mid-January, and we have an office in Wuhan. And we just heard some rumblings that there was a virus going around. That was about it. We never would have thought that it was going to become what it did, of course. So it was just a rumor in the beginning, and then obviously that turned into a lot more later.
And when you heard about it, did you think anything other than, oh, it's just a cold, or I don't really even know what to think about it? Were you given kind of any instruction from the media, the news, the government, anything like that?
No, at that point there was nothing. It was that was mid-January, probably the first time we'd heard about it. And then it was on January 23rd when they actually took the action to lock down the city of Wuhan, shut down the city of Wuhan, which coincided directly with Chinese New Year. So we were all getting out of town at that point as well. So we missed the very beginning of it, actually, for most of the foreigners that were leaving the country at the time.
And so you're living in Shanghai, correct?
Correct.
And you previously lived in Chengdu, is that correct?
Yeah, a long time ago. I did study abroad in college in Chengdu. And then I did a year in the Northeast in a city called Dalian after college. And I've been in Shanghai for 8 years now. So long time, man.
Are any of those close to Wuhan, or have you ever been to Wuhan?
Shanghai, they're all pretty far. Shanghai's about 400 miles from Wuhan. So it's about a 5 hour fast train. I go there twice a year for work, so I'm pretty familiar with the city. We have the company I work for, we have 9 people living in Wuhan, working in Wuhan. And yeah, it's a city I've been going to for years, so I'm pretty familiar with it.
Now, we don't obviously have the familiarity with it that you do. We've been told that it's a big city. It's, not a small little rinky-dink town or anything like that. What can you tell us about it? I know that there's rumors that there was like a whole bunch of construction there and it was dirty, but walk us through kind of what it's like.
So Wuhan it's actually a really famous college city in China. It's got one of the best universities based there. So you have a ton of young people. I think it's going to be the most college students for any city in the world, if not the most, one of the most in China. So it's got to be one of the most. There's a large young population. You've got a lot of great bars with the young kids. It's actually also a big punk rock music scene. It's kind of the music, a big music hub in China. So it's got good vibes. It's really cool. A great waterfront. But yeah, like you said, it has been under construction for about the last 10 years. So it's a little dusty, but that aside, it's a very nice place. And it's a great market for us and our business. So had a lot of beers in Wuhan.
Yeah, I'm shocked that we're maybe 5 minutes into this and you're already talking about great bars in Wuhan. Didn't plan for it to go this way.
Some things don't change, man. Some things don't change.
I mean, you do work for a beer company overall.
Exactly.
And so with Wuhan, have you ever been to the wet market there that everyone's kind of talking about these days?
No. We haven't. I've never, when I go there, it's usually just an in and out. I'm there for a few days. But the concept of a wet market, I'm extremely familiar with. I mean, we have one 5 minutes walk from my house. I get vegetables there pretty often, meat sometimes. I mean, it's a part of daily life here. to go to the wet market. So I know that has a bad rap right now, but it is a part of daily life in this country. So it's just
what's some of the kind of oddities or gnarly things you see walking through that market?
We should do the Zoom next time. I'll be in the market. Maybe a better background. Man, you see everything. You see a lot of innards. So anything you can think of, they pretty much eat it all. A lot of strange seafoods. Yeah, it's out there, man. You have cow's testicles. That's probably the weirdest thing you can find. But yeah, it's all over the place.
In terms, let's get back to kind of how your normal day or work day changed as a result of COVID-19. When did you start seeing changes in your daily life and then I guess your business life, or are they one and the same at that point?
Yeah, so our situation was pretty interesting. Like I said, the day they shut down Wuhan was the day it kind of all became real, at least in the concept that it was going to change our lives in some aspect. For me at that point, it was just like, okay, our business there will be affected, not much else. So we took off the next day on our Chinese New Year vacation. We have a week off of work here. So that's basically the equivalent to the Christmas holiday in the US. Yeah, so we were there. We went to the Philippines, my fiance Micah and I. And then about a week later, we started to hear that the virus was spreading and the government was extending the Chinese New Year holiday by another several days and then suggesting to work from home. So then we ended up changing our flight that was supposed to go back to China at the end of February, or at the end of January, indefinitely. And we didn't know when we would be able to come back. And that's kind of when things sort of hit home a bit.
When you were away, was there any kind of talks about shutting the business down, furloughing workers? Because obviously here in the US, there was record high unemployment. The market had a big dip. It's coming back now. I mean, we're in April 15th, but people are expecting maybe another dip, more unemployment. So it's kind of bleak here. What was it like originally when businesses shut down in China?
Well, when it started, everyone was on vacation. So it was a week vacation that just got extended to another week vacation. So I think a lot of people didn't fully comprehend the seriousness of it. They were in their hometowns or abroad and just saying, okay, we have a few more days off work and then we'll all go back and it'll be okay. And then those dates, and we were just listening to the advice of the government. They were the ones that were telling us when we can go back to work or can't go back to work. And it just kept extending. When we were in the Philippines, our flight had gotten canceled a few times because we couldn't get back because there was a lot of airlines canceling flights. Yeah, so the first thing we were thinking of was just the safety and the well-being of all the people. So stay at home, do that. We're in a pretty healthy financial situation in our company. We grow super fast, along with a lot of other premium consumer goods in China. So we never had to think about laying people off or taking any extreme actions. It was more just stay at home and then let's reevaluate what our next steps are. And just really was one step at a time. It really felt like everything changed every 72 hours as well. So whatever we feel something on a Monday. And then on Thursday, what we thought or felt was completely different. So it was constant. And once we kind of realized that, we never made any real long-term plans. We just tried to wait and see what would happen next. What about you guys? Did you guys have to take some actions with your company?
I mean, it's when the lockdowns kind of went into play, obviously people have stopped getting arrested. A lot of people don't go outside. A lot of people aren't going to bars and drinking and driving, which is a good thing, to be quite honest. But in terms of business numbers, obviously, things are down that way. Domestic violence is up, unfortunately. I mean, those are the one things that obviously we like the business going in, but I mean, those are the ones that hurt the most when you're reading those probable cause affidavits and talking to those families. And then property claims are actually up a little because people are in their home, using their homes more, flushing the toilet, showering more. They're just using their home more than normal. That's a little small positive, but it's kind of a drop in the bucket, so to speak. For you, what was your, we're mentioning a lockdown quarantine. What was the version of that like in China? Because a lot of the times we're hearing people say, oh, China's numbers are too low or whatever it may be. But I know that your guys' version of a lockdown is much more strict and stringent than I'm sure what we're doing. And we've got people, I'm looking out my window now, jogging on by together. I see it right now, right next to each other. Was that something that would have been permissible in China?
Definitely not. I mean, it eased up as the trend lightened, I would say, or it really went with the trend, the regulations. So for us, we were, again, very fortunate because we were abroad when it really started happening. So we stayed in the Philippines for 2 weeks, and then our flight kept getting canceled to Shanghai. So we actually took a flight to Hong Kong, figuring there would be more flights there. We could stay there for a few days. As the trend took off, we ended up staying in Hong Kong for a month, just waiting it out to see what happened in the mainland. While we were in Hong Kong, obviously a lot of stories of friends, colleagues going into that quarantine, and it was extremely serious. It was not a joke. People were not allowed to go out for anything. Everything was, there's an infrastructure for it as well because food delivery service here is super common and readily available everywhere. So you had to take delivery to your home. You have security guards at the entrance of every compound. You can't get in unless you have a pass. They took it extremely seriously, and yeah, the numbers, of course, there's some debate about it, but the trend itself, I do believe, is pretty accurate. So it was definitely strict measures.
When did you start to see, a lot of people talk about the curve flattening, but I'm more concerned about when did you in your daily life start to see things calm down and things kind of get back to a, not normal, but a new normal?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate to say that when we were in Hong Kong was still doing really well with the virus. It had a second spike after we left. So we came back to Shanghai at the end of February, and that's when things were starting to normalize. People were going to work again. The streets were quiet, but you could go out. You had to, when you got back to Shanghai, you did have to self-quarantine for 14 days. And after the virus picked up abroad, they actually implemented very strict measures around those self-quarantines for people returning, including putting sensors on people's doors. So you can't, even if you wanted to go out for a run, you literally could not because your sensor would sound. So these are of course measures that are only possible when there's a centrally controlling government. And yeah, obviously there's silver linings of that, I guess, in certain situations. And in this situation, they were able to handle it very well.
Right, and then different political ideologies will argue back and forth about whether that's right, humane, constitutional, but nevertheless, it seems like it was effective. I saw some videos of you on Easter Sunday having a brunch at the W with some other young business professionals, seemingly looking like everything's perfectly fine. Is that a real depiction? Are things back, so to speak?
So about political ideology, I think there's no perfect system. There's pros and cons to both systems. It's just in this situation when you need the citizens of a country or of the world to take things very seriously, the Chinese government has the ability to actually forcefully make that happen. And that was one of the reasons they were able to control the trend, which in the US is a lot more complicated, of course. Are things back to normal? The W brunch was awesome. That was a lot of fun. Are things back to normal? We did go to a brunch on Sunday, so yeah, we're almost there. China's massive. It's a similar size as the US in terms of geography. So every region is different. They're handling it different. The Shanghai trend is pretty stable, and yeah, people are going out now. You've got a lot of people on the streets, in the malls, in the bars. It's really filling up again, and people are feeling confident. And the government is giving the confidence that we should be feeling confident, should be going out and consuming. That's obviously what the economy needs as well right now.
Is there mandates? So for instance, are you required now to wear a mask? Are you required to wear gloves? Do you have to carry a special app with you that people have been talking about? There's a lot of news articles about some phone app, something like that.
Yeah, I have my phone here. I'll show you the app actually. So masks are required. So that's the biggest difference. You'll never feel like things are fully back to normal when you are required to wear a mask when you're outside. So on the streets, everyone has a mask on. But I think everyone's okay with that. They're just happy to be outside because they went through this period of strict quarantine. So if that's what they have to do to go out, then of course they're happy to do it. So here's the app. It's actually through Alibaba. There's a different system in every city. So I have a green code. A green code means you're healthy and you're able to go out. It's definitely using your location and looking if you've been in any high-risk area. So if you were to fly back right now, and those high-risk areas are changing. If you were to fly back right now from the US, which is considered high risk, your code would be red until you've completed your self-quarantine 14-day period. You've also had a test taken at this point because they're testing everyone that was coming in. Well, the borders are closed now, and yeah, it would be red until you finish that period. And then there's temperature checks everywhere, basically. So anytime we go into a bar, so I mean, the brunch was fun, but to get into the brunch was a little bit of a process. That's a reality. I mean, we had to get our temperature taken. We had to fill in sign-in sheets with all of our personal details. We had to show our code. And obviously that's worth it. And China has the ability to execute those things. So it's the new normal for now. Nobody is fussy when they ask you for your code. You just give your code and you move along. So
yeah, it is quite different, but I mean, it seems as though if numbers want to be crunched, that's the way to crunch the numbers. And in terms of the masks that people are required to wear, are those provided by the government? Does everyone get one? Because masks are kind of hard to come by here.
So they do. I think it's changed over time. They've constantly been implementing new policy. I know when I arrived about a week before my fiance did, and when she arrived, she got a pack, like a welcome pack, back to the country, which included thermometers, take your temperature, some masks. Can't remember what else was in there. Hand sanitizer, things like that. So they were giving that to people that were coming back in during a certain period of time. Yeah, I feel like most people have them. They were not giving them out, but they were so sought after a couple months ago when it all started, that now that's kind of eased and the masks are pretty available. But at the worst of times, there definitely was a shortage here as well, naturally.
So as someone over in the country of origin, kind of where this started, two things, what have you learned from this? Meaning, what have you taken away? And then secondly is, what would you advise anyone who is maybe going through the peak? I know you weren't there during the peak, but we're still kind of trying to flatten that curve. When I say we, I'm talking about the United States. What would you advise? And then obviously the first question was, what have you learned from this?
Yeah, I mean, what I learned was just to take this all very seriously. I mean, I don't think any of us really realized when it first started happening the level that this would all get to. But I think that was my biggest learning, was that we can't take these situations lightly. We don't understand, so we should err on the side of caution and listen to the advice of the science community and people who know better than we do. And then advice to people in the US that are going through this. I mean, there is light at the end of this tunnel. I mean, we are almost there right now, and we know that if we can get there here, then the US can also get there as well. So stay positive, stay home, and yeah, we'll see you on the other side.
Hopefully it flattens out. I got a wedding in Portugal to go to. Congrats on
that, man. We hope so.
Yeah, congrats, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to follow you, is there a handle? Is there an Instagram? Is there something for them to follow? Or Duvel, do you want to have them give that out? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not that active on social media, but actually my Instagram name is pretty relevant right now. It's Harmon_ultra, which is highly sought after these days. So Harmon_ultra, yeah.
Awesome, man. And yeah, we just stocked up on some toilet paper. I shouldn't say that too loud because maybe I'll have some home invasions. But thank you for your time, Sean. Stay safe and go Gators.
Go Gators. Good to see you, Manny.
You too.